Okay, so official hello, good morning to everybody. And Thursday, we're doing noting feelings today. So, kind of, I guess, doing a little bit of a review. If anybody was on the Wednesday night class, apologies, this is going to be a little bit of a review of last night as well. But, for those that might be newer, but I don't think anybody's newer, but it's always good to just kind of review the foundations. So going into it again, would like to just kind of remind everybody of um, this acronym of C.L.E.A.R that I like to work with in terms of how to relate to the sensory phenomena. So again, we're having this somatic based focus. We're bringing our awareness into the body and noticing what arises. And so the process of noting what arises. So C.L.E.A.R, that's the acronym. So it means contact, label, explore, accept, release. So this is the general kind of way of relating to the sense phenomena that we're observing. So contact, be aware of the sensation. Be aware. Can you? This is cultivating the sense clarity component. This is also another way to put it, cultivating our discernment quality, our ability to know and recognize what is taking place. There's this term in Buddhism, sampajana, means complete knowledge or complete understanding. Complete understanding of what our this mind-body experience is. And also, sampajana has this connotation of knowing it, but not just having this cursory, intellectual understanding, but having our attention, our concentration, so focused on the impermanence of the activity. Yeah. So from moment to moment, there's a shift, there's a change. So how can we sustain this contact of flow, so to speak? So contact, be aware of the sensation. Then label, make a label of what is contacted. So, anybody here from the Shinzen tradition is very, very familiar with the different labeling sets and labeling strategies. The labeling in modern times very often attributed to Mahasi method. So in this context today, we are labeling the various feeling states, giving a name to the emotion that we contact. Then, okay, so we contact it, we label it. Well, that's good. Can we hang out with it? Can we explore it? What's the size, the shape, the location, the intensity, the movement? What are these things? Can we allow ourselves to collect some more sensory data? So again, this increases as well the sensory clarity component as well as the concentration component. And then, of course, accept. Can we bring equanimity to your experience? So the equanimity focus. How is it that we can accept, allow, permit ourselves to feel through whatever is taking place? And of course, since we're abiding in present time awareness, can we just let go? This personality view, this sense of self tends to, the sense of self is a phenomena that tends to congeal together when we're not looking at it. But when we kind of look closely at this experience of self, it tends to disentangle. So there's this releasing, relinquishing quality. So the more that we can explore some of the feeling states, well, we can hang out with it and explore it as long as we want, but eventually there's this letting go and allowing ourselves to open up to what the moment is bringing in and new. So I just wanted to just give a simple reminder there of the C.L.E.A.R acronym. And also just, here we go, this one. Just to review, noting feeling states. So we have unpleasant emotions, the anger, fear, sadness, hopelessness, disgust, shame, embarrassment, what have you. The general can't quite tell what it is, but feels negative. The pleasant emotions, the joy, love, humor, acceptance, hope, compassion, kindness, equanimity. Can't quite know what it is, but it feels pleasant, feels positive. Of course, not sure or don't know are completely acceptable. Within, I mean, in no way is this a comprehensive list. I know that different theoretical lenses have their uh, lists that they hold on to of what are clearly our emotions and what are redundancies and such. This is a general one that I like to work with. It's not too much, it's not too little. So these are all umbrella terms. So anger is everything from, mild frustration all the way to homicidal rage. Fear is everything from mild anticipatory trepidation to full-on panic attack. Just they're all different degrees of um, intensity or expressions of a family of um, emotions. So it's kind of the anger umbrella. Any kind of aversive, frustrated, angry sensation, just label it anger. Any type of, fearful, kind of recoil sensation, just under the family of fear. We don't have to break open the thesaurus and start to look at all different words to express the basic experience of fear. So we try to keep the labels simple as possible, yet comprehensive. So there's a bit of that dance. So feel free to refer to this list or make up your own, but don't get too caught up in the labeling. It's more about having a contact, contact with what the experience is, and being able to hang out with it, explore, derive sensory data as you are applying equanimity to it. That's what helps with the processing. That's what helps with the feeling through, uh, while simultaneously um, maybe easing up on some of the tense egoic identification. And kind of piggybacking off of what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, if we can just allow ourselves to rest in awareness, from this place of awareness, viewing the emotions, that helps to break a little bit of the ego identification that might happen with overwhelm, or that might also trigger some defense mechanisms. It can permit and allow some of these emotions to come up. But in a way, it's kind of like like a foot in one camp and a foot in another. One in one way, hanging out in awareness, viewing the emotions, it helps us gain a little objectivity. But at the same time, we want the other foot inside it so we can allow ourselves to really feel through. The more that we can really um, get into the emotion, maybe even have some activation. That's what helps to really kind of process some like older held material as well. So, and of course, at any time, if anything feels a little too much, step into breath, step into some shamatha based activity. It's all a balance of knowing when and how to lean into, bear down into your experience, and when and how to lighten up and be able to resource from your experience. I think that's about says it for the preface. Any questions or comments before we get into the sit? Alrighty, let's get into it. So allow yourself to come to a comfortable upright position. Allow yourself to straighten up and settle in. We'll be working with some noting feelings in a bit, but we can start off with some shamatha practice as we find our way to the breath. Allow yourself to contact and work with breath in any way that you feel is comfortable, appropriate for you. Otherwise, I can suggest that you anchor your attention to a part of the body that actively engages in breathing, be it the nose, throat, lungs, or belly. And lean into what are the pleasant and restful qualities that breath potentially opens one up to. So try not to engage in thinking, allowing the images and internal talk to just fall into the background, or you could even use a dismissive labeling strategy if you like. By noticing what are the pleasant qualities available on the in breath, the top of the in breath, the out breath, and the base of the out breath. Okay, good. Just knowing that breath is always available. Portable, you can bring it into this next phase, or you can at any time come back to exclusive breath focus. So now I invite you to come into the rest of the body, allowing your awareness to free float within the body here, attuning your awareness to the regions of space in the body that you normally may feel sensations that are emotive in nature. Most people report somewhere around the face, throat, front of torso, or wherever it is for you that emotions can be detected in the body. Just allow your awareness to free float in these regions. Recognizing the various emotions that may be present. For most of us, they'll be rather subtle. And that's okay to open up to the subtle experience. And likewise, we're not engaging in thinking, we're not trying to conjure up a situation. Just be present with what is naturally on its own. Anger, fear, sadness, hopelessness, disgust, shame, embarrassment, joy, love, humor, compassion, appreciative joy, kindness, acceptance, equanimity, peace. Feels pleasant, feels unpleasant, not sure, I don't know. Those are all perfectly valid labels. So contact a sensation, label it, explore, accept, and relinquish. So it might sound something like this: sadness, kindness, acceptance, joy, not sure, and so on like that. And to whatever pace, rate, rhythm feels appropriate for you. For now, focus on the contacting and labeling. Contact, label, and explore. As you contact the sensation, you label it. Can you hang out with it a little longer? Where does it arise in the body? How does it express itself? Size, shape, contours, movement, solidity, intensity. Just allow yourself to be open, curious about exploring. Contact, label, explore, and accept. As we are examining, observing, can there be this overall capacity for acceptance, sense of equanimity towards whatever your experience is, allowing, being open to, feeling through, regardless of whether or not it's pleasant or unpleasant, regardless as to how we may be judging or assessing the quality of our sit or our attention. Can that sense of acceptance, equanimity be present, a part of it? That acceptance, equanimity helps to diminish craving for other experience or aversion to the experience you're having now. When in doubt, lean into the acceptance and equanimity. And of course, relinquish. What is it that you're holding on to in this moment? Is there any degree of fixation, grasping, clinging, whether to the sensation itself or to a thought fantasy, planning, daydream. What are you holding on to in this moment that is preventing you from just abiding in flow, present moment experience? What are you holding on to in this moment that is creating a sense of dukkha, discontent, stress? Can you allow yourself to release, relinquish? Allow this activity to return back to the source. So, oftentimes, when working with emotions, usually an emotion arises as either a response to some sort of thought, idea, or it may even trigger some memory idea that has that similar emotive content to it. To the best of your ability, just allow the thinking to be in the background, the back seat, or not at all. Letting go of the images that you see, the internal talk that you hear. If you like to use see and hear, add that into the mix of your labels as dismissive labels. Recognizing images, dismiss, come back into the body. Recognizing internal talk, dismiss, come back into the body. Try to maintain the somatic focus, awareness of the body as the body. Okay, good. We've been engaging in efforting and technique, so if you'd like, you could just drop all efforting, drop all technique, and allow yourself to just rest in awareness. Awareness and equanimity, in whatever way feels appropriate to you. At ease, everybody. Post-bow practice, allowing yourself to continue to receive the merits of your efforts, just with eyes open and engaging in concepts and conversation. So what did you notice? What did you observe? What was relevant for you this morning? And just feel free to unmute yourself and manifest.
Okay. I had a hard time. I have a hard time with this anyway. And we were out this morning and I saw a mom in town, and I had a really hard time not judging her. It was very difficult for me. And I kept on saying, stop, I had in my mind. And so during the sit, she kept on popping up. And I had to like just refocus. And I guess like the emotion would be almost like a slight disgust, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to be that. I don't want to feel that, obviously. So I just kept on like putting equanimity that I don't know her. It's just the outside that I'm seeing. And that was kind of hard because it definitely was a strong feeling.
Okay. So, of course, disgust, I mean, just the nature of disgust is aversion. Yeah. So in a way, can you allow yourself to be open and curious to just the disgust and also the aversion to the disgust? It just
Yeah.
seems like, yeah, that's kind of a tough one in that sense that, just by nature, it's an aversive quality. Um, well, again, this is an experience that you had, and so it kind of was regurgitating, just kind of kept coming up in your mind. But at any point, were you able to just kind of become curious about the somatic experience of it? How
Yeah, it
did
was hard. It was definitely hard. It's hard for me to do. It's like, I go in and then the brain's like, but what about this? And I go in and the brain's like, oh, but what about that? So
Mm,
it's really challenging for me to
yeah.
go in. I mean, sometimes I can get it with like, I actually started like feeling like I have a really hard time sitting like with my legs, and they get very uncomfortable. So then I started to like, not emotion but then feeling, so that I was in my body that way. But yeah, the emotion thing is kind of hard.
So in general, when we do these noting feeling practices, in
Yeah,
general, it's a more challenging one than say some of the other practices we do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the fact that when you come into the body, you become a little bit more acutely aware of the general discomfort of the body.
Yeah.
And then you throw in some like negative experiences that keep popping up that are creating some negative emotion. Gee, why wouldn't you like this experience? This is new.
Right, yeah.
So, sometimes we sit to meditate and it's all, floating around in emptiness and joy. And sometimes we're doing
The
everything we
meta is good because I can use my brain a lot more.
Uh-huh. Yeah. You can definitely do that. But yeah, some exercises like this, it's like we're on the mechanical bull. It's challenging and it's effortful. Now then, so I said in this set and other times, I mean, at any point in time, you can go back to breath and such. In the class last night, I was talking about this, and I might have said that here, but just the analogy of playing tag. You're out playing tag, you're running, you're exerting, you're allowing for the spontaneous arising of whatever happens. And then when it becomes a little overwhelming, it's like, all right, let's just go back to the base, catch your breath, rest, and then, cool down a little bit, then you can enter in.
Yeah.
So if you find that, you're coming into the body, there's just a lot of physical discomfort. The emotive experience is just disgust, and it's just intense, and it's triggering a lot of thought, and it seems a little, the experience becomes chaotic, unpleasant, and it feels like you're not engaging a lot. Just come into breath, just kind of hang
Yeah.
out, just rest a little bit, and maybe that might cool down some of the aversive quality, aversive response to the
It's
core feelings.
I did. I tried that, and then when I said, okay, let's refocus, breath, and then I was like, let's go back in, and then it was like towards the end, it almost was like my mind went to, where is this disgust based out of? Like, where's the root of it? And so then, of course, my mind was like, oh well, here's something. Oh well, here's something. So yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I forget, when was it that we were talking about using the dismissive label of see and hear? Does anybody remember that one? But I was suggesting that to somebody, or maybe in general. I think, no, that was part of the exclusive thing. It might have been when we were doing shamatha earlier this week, sometime using, so the see, hear, feel practice. So in this, if there's a lot of seeing and hearing, a lot of mental imaging and a lot of internal talk, you can work with this noting feeling states as technically a see, hear, feel exercise. Feel space being the anchor, and see and hear being something that you can dismiss. And I think I might have even mentioned that during the course of this instruction, that if it's just like there's a hypertrophy of thought, just, all right, what part is seeing? Just contact, see, dismiss, come back into the body. Internal talk comes, all right, that's just hearing, dismiss, come back into the body, just for this type of exercise. So that might help to deprioritize, or keep a little bit of an eye on the fact that there's this thought that's distracting. And again, it's a retraining, so you're going against a whole lifetime of neural pathways that are set up in a particular direction. So it's okay if that's the habit that shows up. It's a numbers game, consistency of effort over time, and it'll come. And just the fact that you're continually exposing yourself to this, and putting in the effort, that wiring is happening, and the new responses are occurring. So I think just a little bit of patience. It'll click. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Lisa. Anybody else? What was your experience this morning?
Yeah, so I just want to share, and I'm going to preface the story by saying 2 rooms over, my wife is doing vocal exercises with about 50 other people that are voice teachers. So I went through the C.L.E.A.R. Not very good. Contact. The contact was made with me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make any contact. Contact's made with me.
Uninvited, unsolicited contact.
Story of my life. No, but I just found, Mike, that, it got to the point, because I start labeling it, and I'm like, are you serious? Are you kidding? And then the higher notes, you're like, this, okay, all right, this is a comedy of errors. So I stopped labeling. The contact, actually, it's still going. The contact was made. I didn't choose to. The only choice that I could lean into was to explore and accept. Those were my choices. And release, you can't really release because it's constant.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was exploring and accepting, I said, well, really, that's all we have, right? Because contact is something sometimes that you don't choose. So I took out the labeling and I took out the release, and I went, okay, well, contact will always be made either by me or that it contacting me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I choose to explore and accept it. I just hung out, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to listen to it. And all of a sudden there were moments where it was like a Gregorian chant next door.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, why am I doing this? Like, why am I saying, why don't I just get up, call it a day, call it tonight, and just say, today is done. I'm done. And I said, because she seeks the divine in what she does, and I seek the divine in what I do. And there were moments where I was just hearing all these voices, and I was like, wow, there are no words for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no words. It's too, I feel very kind of pedestrian to try to label this beautiful noise that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, that's the path that I've always been at. There's just a contact with the divine. And this is my way of doing it.
Mm.
And when I do make contact, when you see the birth of a child or the death of a pet, or moments, a Gregorian chant where you're in church or whatever it is, the ones that take your breath away, there are usually no words to go with it. But all I have really is explore and accept. The other ones are, you know, I could try to label it, but I just feel like, you know, the labeling went from absurd to "Are you kidding me?" to "What the hell?" to it was just very.
Those are outside the labeling set, but you did say make up your own labels.
Yeah,
So, what
all
the
of a
hell?
sudden I went to Spanish. I was cursing in Spanish. I was like, but I get to explore and accept.
And in particular, there's something about external sound. You know, I think I was saying this a little bit yesterday. Sight, there's something I don't like to see. I shut my eyes. Boom, a boundary is formed. But sound, there's no boundary. Sound comes in and enters in. And there can be something so particularly invasive, especially if it's unpleasant. So, I mean, you know, if it's pleasant, it can be quite restful, and you can have this non-selfing experience as you just kind of abide in external sound. But if it's unpleasant, chaotic, then it can definitely be trigger practice. I find that when there's unpleasant sound, it definitely creates a big upwelling of self. Yeah. Because I'm resisting this experience. But the more that I can, and to your point, accept, allow, all right, you know, I'd like to be having experience A, but experience B is dominant in this moment. And all that's really arising is my resistance trying to push it out. That's what's creating the suffering. So that point of where you're like, oh, let's just throw in the towel. Well, rather than stopping the meditating, just stopping your agenda and just being with the primary experience, which is just the waves of sound coming in. And can you just allow, accept, just as you're doing? So that's wonderful. You're going with your inner wisdom there. And just to be with that experience so fully that there's no time or space for self to emerge, to kind of battle against it. So just being with each upwelling, each scintillation of sound, and maybe that can evoke some emotion, but can that also kind of be, how should we say, you know, part and parcel of the experience? Here comes the sound, it upwells this emotion, the sound dies down, the emotion dies down. And then, you know, it's just waves, just kind of churning each other, just to bear witness to that experience. And, you know, again, you know, we're going from the conceptual, what the hell, da da da, this is that, this is me, I don't like this, to the sensory experience of just being with the angst, to just, oh, you know, boom. As soon as you go into the explore, accept, then you kind of get into the flow state of it. And just something inherent within the flow state diminishes the dukkha, diminishes that discontent. And then, as you're saying, your intention you're bringing in is accessing your relationship with divine. Well, then that's kind of getting into the awareness. So that just that awareness of the flux and flow of sound and appreciation. So good. I appreciate your exploration today.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. Okay, we might have time for a quick one if anybody has. Would feel remiss ending this morning without manifesting. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for your effort and engagement this morning. Homework. So can we go through the day? And if you're engaging in work, interpersonal relationships, or just the general self-care, can you be aware of the feelings states that are taking place? And so, you know, the contact label, explore, accept, relinquish, you know, that's a paint by numbers. That's a step-by-step. Sometimes we need that to form new habits. But is there some pared down, organic, portable version of that? Maybe just simple contact with just the arising and passing of what's taking place in the body. Maybe just that alone, noticing when you're leaving the body and going into the rumination. Can you come back into the body and just contact what's the underlying emotive sensation there? Maybe that might release and relinquish some of the need to generate more rumination. And maybe just taking care of bringing some compassion to some of the unpleasant, some appreciation to some of the pleasant, might help to create a little bit more of a simplified experience. And also might kind of open up to just being able to rest in awareness as you go through the day. So just being aware of the feeling qualities within the body, whatever way that you can make a portable version of that for the day, for life practice. It's your mission if you choose to accept it. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. I hope to see you mañana. Okay, take care.